Alright, so we're doing spoiler breakdowns here. That's 7, 8 new cards that Skylash has leaked. I mean, he's been leaking them so fast that I might potentially be able to just check the Reddit right now and find a new one. There's been one like every hour for the last like couple of hours. It's been pretty ridiculous. Okay, nothing new yet, so we just saw Spire Guard and that was the last one. So we'll go ahead and be talking about those. There's a lot of them that I want to talk about. First things first, I want to do like it's kind of a fun little sort of, yeah. When the Omens of the Past spoilers started leaking, we got leaked art for the Champion of Fury, and it was confirmed that it was for Champion of Fury. And so one of the first things that I did was I made up a mock-up of what I thought the card would be, and that ended up looking like it was really fun. We made this. Was a 2/2, +1 attack and charge, infiltrate, draw a static bolt. I made a mistake here because I gave the card infiltrate, which is a Felm mechanic, of course. I didn't want to give it overwhelm because I thought that that was going to be a little bit close to Champion of Chaos. For reference, we have just actually released the Champion of Fury, and that ended up being this. Hello, guy. You're way too big right now. There we go. So, got pretty close. Feeling pretty good about that. Yeah, really delighted by the card in general. We have seen a card that... So, this card is a 4/2 charge overwhelm on its best day, which it usually gets its best day. Typically, it's going to come out, maybe like as a 3/2 with charge. I think you're going to orient pretty heavily towards red in most situations, but a 3/2 with overwhelm that later gets +1 is also not bad if you're orienting towards blue. And so, yeah, pretty crazy, fun Yeti stuff. This is a Yeti, so it does interact with Wump in particular. Becomes a 5/3 with charge and deal 1 damage when it comes into play. A 5/3 with charge and deal 1 damage when it comes into play in red at 2 cost is, yeah, real good. Champion of Fury is a very, very aggressive card, and it works very well at being a very aggressive card. So this guy is doing his job correctly. I think he's similar to the other champion, just a very fun, pushed champion that asks you to go into this particular section, and if you do, you'll have one good card guaranteed that's going to fit very well into your deck. So he works very well with a lot of burn stuff. He works very well with a lot of Skycrag stuff in general. He's a good unit. He carries weapons very well because he has overwhelm. So you can like play him out in like Skycrag weapons decks and just like give him like really, really big stuff. You can do all sorts of crazy stuff going on. So yeah, like I think he's just nasty and aggressive and really, really well statted. And that's sort of what you expect out of the Champion of Fury. So does a very, very good job. And I think that's pretty rad. On that same note, we had one other guess for what a card would look like, and that was the Praxis Stranger. This was my mock-up for the Praxis Stranger with Pliskin. And I made a mistake here too, and that was the mistake that actually like made it just short of being perfect, which is that all of the Strangers have rounded stats. They have they're either 2 and 2 or 1 and 1 or 3 and 3 or 4 and 4, I think. I'm not sure if there's any 4/4 Strangers. Yeah, there is one, the double damage Stranger. But the card that ended up getting released was, in fact, Clever Stranger. And he's a 4-cost, 2/2. Warp. Strangers have Warp. So the Warp... I wasn't sure if they were going to go for putting Warp on the text of the card, but I was sure that this Stranger was going to exist because Strangers have Warp is way too fun a mechanic, and it like legitimately like makes Strangers good in a real sense. Like not only do you get to play this card off the top of your deck, but then like every other Stranger that you probably have just jam-packed into your deck now has Warp, and you could be running a bunch of spells with Warp, and you could be running Waystone Infuser, the card that I spoiled, which gives all of your power Warp. So we now have the potential to give all of your cards in your deck Warp, and that's definitely awesome. But also, like, Strangers with Warp in general are really, really solid. This is actually a pretty decent deck. So amongst other things, you can play it. So like you can play it as a sorry. Yeah, so the main thing about this is that like the strangers that you are playing it with include the Ruthless Stranger and the Determined Stranger, which are two of the strongest like straight up draft archetype strangers in the game, and also like two of the strongest sealed or two of the strongest ranked strangers in the game. If you're going to build a stranger deck, you're often going to build it with Determined Stranger because he's the one that really makes the rest of your strangers work, and he's very, very powerful in that regard. So red, yellow, green strangers seems very likely. Red, yellow, purple strangers might be pretty good. If you can do even 5-color strangers, then Clever Stranger is really going to help you out. And also he has like other interesting interactions, like Warp plus Curious Stranger is pretty interesting. Like this is just one of the cards that's going to make strangers good, and I think that overall he's doing a very, very good job of that. So I like his design a lot. I'm pretty excited about this design in general. Like, this is a design that I clearly wanted, and yeah, it's something that we got. So, feels pretty solid. Feels pretty solid. Medic Crow says, "Hey, Loco, been playing Eternal and watching your startup vids on YouTube for beginners. Thank you for those. They really help out. Thanks, Medic Crow. That's awesome." Okay. If you have this in the Draw Card Stranger, there's weird interactions there because you can warp a stranger and draw a card. If you draw a Warp Stranger, you have to play it out of your hand, but that's fine too, right? It just means that you kind of negate the card advantage in a way. I don't think that the Divining Rod interaction is all that great, honestly. Giving all your strangers warp is nice, but I mean, if you're going to pay 6 for a Divining Rod, you might as well just play all the strangers off the top of your deck. Because they're going to be on the top of your deck, right? Divining Rod will help you like sort of speed the process along, but I suspect that you're already going to be playing so many strangers that you don't need Divining Rod. So yeah, Clever Stranger makes Mass Strangers a really fun archetype. It's probably not going to single-handedly alter the course of strangers, but there will be some scary stranger decks, and there should be some really fun ones in general. I think that the main thing about this is that this makes strangers really fun, and that's something that strangers are kind of missing right now. They have a lot of cards that make them okay, but like Warp is just a really fun mechanic, and like there are some things about it, like the way that this like sets up for Johnnies and sets up for people who want to just combo out and do silly things is really, really satisfying. So that's great. Okay, so we have a lot of cards to talk about, and I'm going to talk in length about one of them. Not sure when we're gonna hit it, but it's the one that I don't like. First things first, we'll talk about Firemain Cub, who's a durables. Summon, deal 1 damage to an enemy unit, 1/1 for 1 with fire. Elemental Beast, which is pretty great. Lovely little art, just everything that the sun touches. Everything that the fire touches is his. I think that he's really, really cute. I think we've got a lot of, like, it's a really good piece of art, and that really helps. And yeah, like, the card's decently solid as both a draft archetype that is just another unit that really punishes those 1-drop or 1-health units, and also like kind of just as an aggressive 1-drop that kills Oni Ronins and does cool things in like control archetypes. It's basically like, yeah, it's got the same stats and similar abilities to Forge Wolf, except it's good. So yeah, it's decent. Like, the card's not doing anything amazing, but it does give you a pretty decent amount of extra stuff going on. It's the card that Forge Wolf really wants to be. The fact that it doesn't deal damage to players is kind of a cute, like, sort of nod to Forge Wolf, but at the same time, I think Firemain Cub is always the card that you want more. It's a 1-drop unit that you can play down, you can give Warcries to it, it'll pop Aegises, like, it fits pretty well in some particular, like, extra formats. It's not amazing, but it will be okay in some setups, and it's very good against Aegis in particular in Warcry decks. So, a nice big unit to have. Comes back with Shadowlands Guide, which is really nice. Can be given charge by Frontier Jito, even though Frontier Jito is kind of unplayable at this point. Close to unplayable anyways. And yeah, like, just has good interactions. I think if there's going to be more deal 1 damage things, that's really nice. This is a straight buff to Claw of the First Dragon. And I'm always excited about that because Claw of the First Dragon is awesome. So yeah, it's fun. Now you can play Claw of the First Dragon, attack into a 5/5 unit, and pray. So pretty excited about that. Firemain Cub is a good addition to the set. Not a high power card, but an important design. Okay. To Watcher of the big ones as the palette cleanser, I think. Let's talk about Spirit of Resistance. Alright. The 12 cost 10/10. Summon, kill everything else. That's units and weapons and relics. Spirit of Resistance can't leave the void, so you can't cheat it out with Grasping at Shadows, which obviously would be kind of a big deal. I do not like this card. I in fact really don't like this card. This is probably my biggest miss as far as Eternal has ever published, or has it ever like shown off. I There's a lot of things that I don't like about it. So the first thing is flavor and just general like the style of the card. There's a couple of things that are going wrong here. The big one is that this is a spirit of resistance. It's not the spirit of the resistance. It's not the spirit of a particular resistance. It's a mob that's a 10/10 that kills everything else. And that's weird. That's like, you look at that card and it just kind of gives you a weird feeling in your gut. Because, like, is that the spirit of resistance? Is the definition of resistance kill everything else? I don't think it is. Is it a mob that blows everything up? You know, I really, that feels kind of tone deaf. It feels really off color. In fact, like I find it a little bit, yeah, just very strange. Like considering like the historical perspectives on resistance, like. The first question that came to my mind when I was looking at this card is, how does this translate into French? Is it going to be Spirit de la Revolution, or is it going to be something else? Because what this is a French Revolution. Like, this is things going crazy, everything going wrong. I totally understand that flavor. Why is it called Spirit of Resistance? Because, I mean, you can have non-violent resistance. You can have resistance that has a purpose or has a particular structure in mind. Like, you can have resistance as, like, part of a minority group against, like, a majority group. But the spirit of resistance is not a mob destroying everything. And it's kind of just very bad idea to name that card Spirit of Resistance. I think the first thing that I think you absolutely should change about this card is the name, because the name is awful. It's really bad, and it doesn't communicate anything about the card. It doesn't communicate what the card's trying to do. You can look at the art and you can sort of see that they are pulling down a statue, assumably of Roland, but there's some problems there too. Like we have the characters in the background that are sort of like the ones that are important are like the mob with their weapons. You can't really see the statue in the background or the foreground, I guess, as it is. And like it's hard to say exactly what that is. Also, this card is colorless, which why is it colorless? Why isn't it Shadow or Rakano? Why isn't it like some sort of expression of like actual resistance, as it somehow implies as a philosophy? So yeah, like if I were to rename this card, like it might be something like Faceless Mob, or like just you know, like uncoordinated resistance. I don't know what I'd call it, but I definitely wouldn't call it this. And like I feel like it's almost like borderline offensive to call it the Spirit of Resistance. So you know, yeah, that's pretty big. That's a pretty big deal. I feel like that's kind of like just a huge miss. I understand the intent. Like clearly, this card was trying to set up like a big moment, a riot basically in Argenport, which is something that's like a story focused point that you want to hit. You want to actually have that card happen, and I think it just got misnamed. Like, and that's not like a developer thing. That's something that just like happens. And you know, like these cards don't get names until very late in the development cycle, so that was probably the thing that was least tested and least considered. But I think it's really bad. Like just straight up like the wrong thing to call the card, and that's pretty ugly. The other thing I don't like about this card, in terms of like general flavor, is that it's far too close to the Hearthstone card Deathwing and the Magic cards that are the Eldrazi. And I think that both of those designs are fairly toxic and weird in general, but also I don't think that either of those designs are particularly good. Like they're big units that murder everything, and that's kind of useful. Like you kind of want like one of those in your gameplay, but also like this is something that came out at the same time as Leave a Witness, which is a card that is doing something very very similar and doing it much more flavorfully, and like generally like conveys that sense of dread and awesomeness and like just kind of scariness. Whereas this one is like sort of doing that very poorly, and the 1010 is also kind of obnoxious. Colorless units are harder to kill, so that's irritating. From a perspective of a player who's going to be playing against this, I just don't want to play against this. Like, I can see that like you're going to be destroying everything else. I can see why, like, as a player, you might want it to like blow everything else up. I can see why you'd want it to like, you know, I can see why you'd want something like this. This is like two straight up middle fingers to Chalice, and that's kind of cute. Like this is something that really like makes the control decks kind of sad, and also like if you are playing a control deck, it's something that you can play where you're not playing relics but your opponent is, or like where you can just like really just drive the nail home. And from like kind of a mean perspective, it's fun that way. But like this is for the kind of dickish Johnny, like the Johnny that like really wants to make everyone else's life miserable, and like the fact that it can't leave the void is not enough. I'm still gonna like I'll play this card. I'll safe return it. I'll teleport it. Every time that you try to kill it, I'll just like bounce it back to my hand, and then I will destroy all your stuff again. Or every time you play something else, here you go. This card is now an 11/11, and I played it again, and all of your stuff is dead again. How fun is that? Isn't that great? Yeah, I hope you're having a good time. This card is just, yeah, kind of awkward from that respect. It ends the game very fast, fortunately, so you don't have to, like, sort of wallow. But if it gets killed, like if it actually gets to the situation where your opponent's playing Spirit of Resistance over and over again, and you keep having an answer for it, like that's a slow slog. It's not a pleasant time. Like it's just not a fun card. So, pretty awkward. You can give it accelerate, and that, you know, again, like it drives the knife home faster, but it's still just pretty unpleasant. Not a fun thing to do. So like, yeah, this is the thing where like I'm gonna build decks around this, but I don't really want to. And from a design perspective, like yeah, from a flavor perspective, a total miss. Just everything about it is wrong. From a gameplay perspective, I don't have any reason to want to play it, except for reasons that will make other players unhappy. And like that's, you know, like I certainly don't want to play against it. I'm kind of happy playing with it, and it's all colors. So like, and there's 4 different colors that can ramp. We have Praxis ramp, we have Xenon ramp, we have Argenport with Martial Ironthorn, and Huru with Martial Ironthorn. And both of those are going to want to ramp anyways, because they've got like 8 of the Huru and other cool cards. So like, if every faction can play this, if this card is ever good for any reason, if there's any way to break this card, it's miserable. It's absolutely awful, because every deck can play it. And every control deck can play it, and if you get into like a control winter, then Spirit of Resistance is the card that just whoever plays it first wins. Great. So yeah, like that's the last thing. Like from a design perspective, why? What does this card accomplish? It doesn't do the same things as like Leave a Witness does. It feels like it's a lot of risk for very little payoff. Like I just don't understand like why you'd take all of these different risks with this card when the result is something that really isn't that impressive, that doesn't like seem to communicate anything well, that doesn't say anything about the game or about Eternal. Like maybe it says something about the storyline, but can you do that with something else? Because like it seems like you're designing a card that can really really hurt the gameplay of Eternal if it's broken. And I don't think it is broken. I think that at 12 cost it is quite reasonable. I think that like, you know, it's going to be a hard time playing this card. People will have to actually really work to play this card, and it's not actually going to be like good. I think it's probably, but like most Eternal cards, it's probably been playtested to oblivion, and hopefully like we don't find anything to break it with, but at the very least it's been looked at. But if it were broken, that's so bad. So why take the risk? Because like normally if you're going to take a risk like this, you're going to do it for some kind of huge reward, and I just don't see that in Spirit of Resistance. So yeah, that's my thought on the card. It's pretty bland. It's very, very awful on flavor. Has some particularly troublesome implications that are either really culturally tone deaf or at least very historically cynical. And neither of those are things that I want out of this game. Like I'm all about positivity. I'm all about like just general interest. Like this is a thing. Like another thing here is that this is the thing where Eternal chooses to use the word kill for all of its destroy effects because it can't use destroy, and as a result, this sounds even more like dark and weird and kind of unpleasant. And that, yeah, like it just doesn't add a lot. It makes me feel kind of sad, and so I'm not struck by it in any particular fashion. I would rather this card go away. I would definitely want it renamed. I kind of want it to be a different color, and I mostly just don't want it to exist. So there you go. There's Pojo doesn't like a card. We'll move on, but Spirit of Resistance, total miss for me. All right, Extract. Lifesteal. Deal 3 damage, look at the top card of your deck. You may put it on the bottom. So this card is a torch for 3 that also gives you a little bit of scry. And that's actually a very powerful effect. Like this is a pretty good card. You can do some decent things with it. It's pretty good in draft because it allows you to really kind of sort your draws as draft. I think it's probably playable in the overall setting. Like I think it's pretty crazy. Like so yeah, like I think that like it's probably playable in standard. You can probably play this in ranked. You need certain decks for it, but there are certainly going to be decks where you want to like either put stuff on top of your deck with Second Sight and then put them on the bottom, or just kind of like search through your deck. This is a card that allows you to play aggressively and also continue to support Revenge. So like that's really good. But yeah, like it's just it's pretty interesting. People are commenting about the flavor text of Kill Everything Else and how it's kind of a mess. I agree. Like it doesn't feel very good, and it also doesn't really explain itself very well. People were wondering if this discards hands. I think somebody was suggesting it destroyed the little doodads on the side. But yeah, that's kind of weird. Extract, probably playable and ranked in the right types of decks, mainly revenge decks and other cool things. Like it's playable. I think it's not on the strong side for ranked. It's very, very good in draft. Really good in draft because it stabilizes you. The lifesteal is actually really important. Torch with lifesteal, I mean, that's almost worth 3 already. And then the scry effect is probably even more important. So all 3 of those things together make for a very good card that's worth the cost that it is listed at. So Extract, potentially very useful. Extremely good ranked card. Great ranked common. I mean, it's a common removal spell. That's already just awesome. So yeah, this card does a lot of good. I like it a lot. Good design. Well done. I'm not sure what's doing the extracting. It looks like a Huru is doing the extracting, weirdly enough. That particular thing that we're seeing in the extract art is something new. All right, Valkyrie Spire Guard. This one's pretty exciting. This is one of the this is the latest one, I think. 3/3 flying, +3/+3 while you have another Valkyrie. So yeah. A 3/3 for 4 with flying is already a draft bomb and rare. Like it's just good. Like Soaring Stranger is good in draft because it does cool things and has a bit bonus effect. Like in general, like it's pretty solid as a draft rare. So this card's gonna be great in draft because you can get a 4-mana 6/6. That's awesome. And if you can't, well, whatever. Valkyrie Spire Guard interacts with a lot of different Valkyrie. The ones I can think of are Loyal Watchwing, Valkyrie Aspirant, the Winged Valkyrie, I believe the new Revenge Valkyrie. What is his name? The 5/5 whose revenge never ends. His name's very strange, and I can't remember the exact ordering. MAKRNO, I think. Man, I really like the card, but I cannot remember his name. Makto. He's Makto. Yeah, so it's MAKT and O. Almost had it. Yeah, so Makoto is a Valkyrie as well. There are a lot of good Valkyries, and Valkyrie Spire Guard certainly behaves well with this. Eager Owlet, another card that synergizes well with flyers, is not a Valkyrie, so that's a little unfortunate if you want to build a Valkyrie deck, but there are a lot of good Valkyries. I think Tower Top Patrol might be a Valkyrie. Maybe not. Yeah, Roland's Honor Guard is definitely quite good. Silverwing Avenger, but not Silverwing Familiar. This card interacts very well with a lot of good flyers, and it doesn't interact with Silverwing Familiar, which is actually pretty important. So, yeah. Valkyrie Spire Guard, I think there will be more good Valkyries. I think that if you're just playing this with Valkyrie Enforcer in a deck, you're probably pretty happy, as long as you're playing lots of flyers. And, yeah, can be a very, very solid card in Ranked if you can build enough of the right Valkyries. I don't think it's a reason to run Silverwing Avenger. I think it is something that can go in a deck with Makoto, Valkyrie Enforcer, perhaps Aspirant, and just enforce that whole like flying sub-theme. It's a very, very strong card, so does a lot of good. A 6/6 for 4 with flying. There's only one other way to get this at the moment, and that's Champion of Wisdom, and that card's pretty strong as well if you can get the setup. Let's say that Valkyrie Spire Guard has much more chance to activate as a 6/6. Doesn't have as strong a stat line without the 6/6, and is a little bit more capable of getting like sort of played around. So all of those are things to look out for in Ranked, but the design is strong, and the overall strength of the card is quite good. Alright, that leaves the one finisher. I believe we've gotten all of them, yeah. Champion of Fury, Clever Stranger, Extract, Firemain Cub, Spirit of Resistance, Valkyrie Spire Guard, and last but not least, and perhaps the most fun, Watcher of the Big One. Okay. So this is an Explorer, although it is riding a dinosaur, so it gets to be a 4/6. Cute little kit. I get some Lilo and Stitch vibes here. Very, very durables. So, pretty fun stuff. Oh, is there a Nightmare card? Well, we might have to take a look at that as well. Piercing Grief. Okay, yeah, we'll cover that too. Maybe we could switch. Interesting. I didn't see that one. Alright. Let's pull that in. Do we save the cuteness for last? Interesting question. Alright, we'll switch. We'll switch. Piercing Grief. Okay, so this is going to be my first impression of Piercing Grief, because I have not even seen this card. But here it is. Lifesteal, Revenge, and Charge. At the end of your turn, sacrifice it. So 2 cost, 3/1, bolts the face, has Revenge, so after it bolts the face and gives you 3 health, it comes back into your deck and comes out again at a later date to charge in and get another 3 health. Whether it gets another 3 damage is questionable. Certainly your opponent might be a bit prepared for it at that point, but it will have Destiny, so you can Dark Return it back, you can get it back with a bunch of like Void Recursion effect. This card has similar interactions to Recurring Nightmare, in that it's very hard to deal with on its own, and unless you can interact with it in some way, you're going to have some problems, because it's definitely recovering against some of the more aggressive focused decks. This is a great lifesteal activator for Life Force, because it's something that you can get out for free when you play a lifesteal card. So like if you play Piercing Grief on turn 2, and then like you draw it on like turn 6 or so, and you're just like, okay, well then this is the turn that I play my my 5-cost Blood Call Invoker and get my invoked 3/3 as a bonus. Like, so basically, like on any turn where you get a Piercing Grief, you can play a bunch of Life Force cards and get all of their activations and have some really good fun in Xenon. The card is very strong if it can be buffed by anything. It works well with Argenport charge effects. So like if you're playing Paladin Oathbook and you're playing like Oathbook Nightmare, Piercing Grief goes right in there. He's great in that situation. Just a really strong card in terms of like its overall difficulty in interacting. Desert Marshal is going to be the bane of this card, of course, because it's got 3 different skills, and it's kind of terrible if it gets silenced. So trading evenly with it, however, is really the best you can hope for. So that makes it a very strong card in Shadow. Like, basically, if it comes out and it gets the full 3 damage plus 3 health, I think it has low board impact, and low board impact is scary, but that's a similar thing to Recurring Nightmare, where this is something that you can definitely run away with a game with. So, looks interesting. I am pretty excited by it. Overall, quite strong. Very, very solid. Also, this card does just do disgusting things with Hero of the People, which is another card that you can run in recurring Nightmare Haunting Scream decks. So, could be very fun in that situation. I think, yeah, Haunting Scream and Revenge is actually really solid. I hadn't even considered that interaction, but if you Haunting Scream a Piercing Grief and you charge in, it'll sacrifice itself, but it does have... Oh, no, it won't have Revenge anymore. Never mind. So if you could Haunting Scream like a Mocto or something, it won't have Revenge anymore. It loses it. So, sad day. But nonetheless, Piercing Grief is pretty cool and does work very well with Dark Return in particular. So, good stuff. Okay, so yeah, Piercing Grief's pretty great. Okay, so yeah, let's go back to Watcher of the Big Ones. Our delightfully cute card, 4/6. When Watcher of the Big Ones is a student, play a 5/5 Carnosaur. Card's a legendary, so that's a big deal, but right away, just having extra student activators, anything that cares about being a student makes certain other cards that are mentor cards much better. So basically anything that does mentoring is much better since Watcher of the Big Ones exists. In particular, if you get this card in draft, it's not the only card that you can do this with, but if you get a Watcher of the Big Ones early in draft, then the really awful Cloud Snake, the Cloud Snake that Cloud Snake Mount actually becomes a decent card because you just want as many student activators as you can. So like that is something important to consider. Just anything you can do to basically just buff up Watcher of the Big Ones is a big deal. As a 4/6 that when it exhausts plays a Carnosaur, it's pretty interesting. I'm pretty certain. I'm not 100% certain. Oh, I think actually, I'm pretty certain that there was an interaction that people were talking about with Leave a Witness, where if you leave Watcher of the Big Ones as a witness, you get the Carnosaur. I think they're wrong. I'm pretty sure that if you leave Watcher of the Big Ones as a witness, then Watcher of the Big Ones creates a Carnosaur and then gets to watch it die. So if you want to build traumatized children, that's a potential archetype, but I don't think that the Carnosaur lives. I could be wrong about that. The wording of it is such that it may potentially become a student after the explosive effect happens. So we will see. But Watcher of the Big Ones is certainly a card that you want to target with mentor abilities. And there's certainly some decent ones that you can maybe play with. One of the interesting things about this is that this is not a card that currently interacts with a lot of the mentor cards we've already seen. We know there's going to be a lot of mentor cards, but like this doesn't work with the mentor card that's mentor, draw a card for each skill. It only sort of works with the card that is mentor +1/+1 and you draw a card if it's got flying. And it's not incredibly grand with some of the other mentor abilities. Like giving it lifesteal is pretty okay, so that's nice. Spirit Guide gives you a 4/6 lifesteal, and that's pretty cool. I think overall it's a pretty strong card, and it's a lot of fun to build around, right? I think this is a really good card that just sort of demonstrates the power of mentor student. And again, the more of these cards that are printed that specifically benefit from being a student, I'm pretty cool with that. Yeah, this card does block Sandstorm Titan, which is always nice. As a 4/6, the stat line is pretty close to perfect. It's not terribly aggressive as a 5-drop, a bit understated, but it strengthens itself pretty well. Does die to Obliterate, which is never fun, but overall I think that it's pretty good. It is mono-colored, which is also another big deal. Depending on if there's any sort of like hybrid faction hater in Shadow, monocolored may or may not be a big issue, but at the moment there's currently only hate for monocolored cards and not for hybrid cards, so being monocolored is slightly worse just because of the extra amount of removal you can be targeted by. Yeah, like overall the extra Carnosaurs are really good. Watcher of the Big Ones has really good flavor, does some cool things in blue that you really want to do. Generally, like sort of emphasizes that fun like overwhelm / like card advantage / just delightful primal style, and I think it's a really fun card. I love the art. I love the flavor of it, and I'm really delighted by this card. Yeah, that's it for me as far as the YouTube stuff goes. The YouTube folks, thank you for watching. Feel free to like or subscribe. Next time.